Now, another question. I feel like I've gone through a certain amount of renunciation, but I feel it should be a sattvic exercise, whereas some of mine is tamasic. I let it go in meditation, pray for general things like contentment rather than specific resolution. I'm not sure how much we are to apply fiery willpower to the circumstances of our life, or if that should be more specifically used for maintaining spiritual growth. At times, I feel very compelled for change, but I don't know what aspects of my suffering are maintained by my state of mind and what aspects are more reliant on circumstance. Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, um, yes, you want your motivations to be sattvic, but you don't want to pretend they're sattvic when they're tamasic or rajasic. Uh, and there's nothing wrong with having tamasic or rajasic motivations because at least it gets you moving. As we know, tamasic motivations are, I want to avoid pain. Okay, that's how I started. So if you have motivations so that you avoid pain, I mean, think about it. Going back to the previous talk, if that person had a sattvic or a tamasic motivation when it came to avoiding toxic relationships, I want to avoid pain, then it'd be very easy. Any relationship that came along that was poisonous, they would weigh it in the scales and say, is this causing me more pain and more suffering and getting in the way of well-being in life? And they would say yes. And then they would choose to minimize that relationship. And that would be a tamasic reason. But would it lead eventually to greater well-being? It sure would. And then they would start choosing relationships. They move into more rajasic state. We're like, you know what? I want to find people that are just self-motivated and just good people. And so then they'd be rajasic about actually seeking out people that are helpful. But that passes too. And eventually they just do it because it's the right thing to do. Then it becomes sattvic. So we have to move through the tamasic and rajasic motivations until eventually the sattvic thing happens. And sattvic is just pure inspiration. It happens not because you want to make something better, not because you're avoiding pain, just because it is useful and appropriate to your path. Now, how to apply fiery willpower in circumstances of our life that should be more specifically, well, anyway, should I use fiery willpower or not? Well, again, this goes back to, in a sense, the discussion that we were having previously, and the person that was asking the previous questions. I know that they're driven. I know that they can be successful. I know this would be the kind of person that if I was going to hire them, I would love to hire them because I would know, number one, that they would do a wonderful job. And I know the entire time they would think they were doing a terrible job, so they'd work even harder. Yes, there are people like that. And those are the people you want to hire because you know they're going to do a wonderful job and they're going to push themselves. That's work related. However, there are people that never seem to accomplish anything. And they wonder, well, should I have fiery willpower about that? Or should I just wait and let it all be taken care of? Well, the best way that I use discernment in that regard is I look at someone and I say, if you are successful in your life and you do a wonderful job and you have been able to maintain your resources, your health as best as possible, and you have tried, meaning you have really done the work, so much so that you might even be a little anxious about it. Those are the kind of people I say, back off that fiery willpower a little bit. But if I see people that don't have a job, haven't accomplished any kind of worthwhile endeavor, just kind of sit around and don't do a whole lot, well, that's when I'm going to say, yeah, you need to develop some fiery willpower. And if they take it too far, well, then of course we back off a little bit. But usually that's not the case. Most of the time when people aren't really motivated or aren't doing things which allow them to be successful in different areas of their life, I tend to tell them to do it 10 times more than they really need to. Because I know if you tell them to do it that much, they'll do 1/10 of it and they'll be okay. So what you have to ask yourself is you have to sit back and just question, all right, am I autonomous? Have I been able to take care of my most basic needs so that I can pay my bills, eat good food, exercise regularly, have a good home so that I can meditate more? Then you're probably all right. If problems are happening in your life constantly, consistently, then it may be the way you're thinking about things, the way you're looking at things causes problems. I know this happened to me quite often. My own judgments or preconceptions about situations, I would bring them into certain experiences, and invariably I would cause the problem. So I had to learn through meditation to stop and pause and say, all right, I know what I want to do here, but is this really appropriate? And again, this is always going to come back to the practice of truthfulness and having integrity. Truthfulness and having integrity. If you practice truthfulness, if you have integrity, it will be much easier for you to recognize what is appropriate in the moment. It will be much easier for you to have self-honesty. It will be much easier for you to recognize now is the time to use fiery willpower. Or now is the time to back off and say, you know what? I've worked hard all week. I've meditated every day. I've got my exercise in. I eat enough broccoli. It's perfectly all right if I just sit here and watch Netflix for 2 hours, because I know tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm still going to take care of all the things that are important. So we have to learn to ride these waves.